She only refers
I know,
to take
right?
notes later. And you look fabulous.
Oh.
This does go on our YouTube.
Grown up
account.
pants.
It'll be YouTube famous. so-
All right. Hey,
Okay.
it's happened before. It's gonna happen again.
We're sharing exchange.
You're doing it now.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's wrong.
Okay. Last time, I swear we're gonna do the reorg tonight, all right? So like no
Okay.
more delays.
Are you ready?
We're ready.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:01 PM, please.
All right, take roll.
Yes, please.
Chair Guzman,
Here.
Vice Chair Yip. Here. Committee member Gore is absent tonight.
Oh,
Committee member Hollenbeck.
Here.
Committee member McCauley.
Here.
And committee member Hingy.
Here.
Right. Most are accounted for in chair.
thank you. Agenda review.
Yes, from staff, I would like to amend the agenda tonight just to clarify that item 2 is not from Samtrans staff. It is the San Mateo County Transportation District. Completely separate entity. But all working towards the same common good.
Okay. Do we need to vote on that?
No, just that's the FYI.
Okay, so
And no one from BPAC had other changes or notes on the agenda? Yeah, okay. Moving on.
public comment?
Not, so Anthony's not here. Okay.
No
No,
emails?
no in-person comments, and as of 5 PM today, no member, the planning staff has not received any emails or voicemails regarding tonight's agenda.
Okay. Consent calendar? Did everyone have time to read the meeting minutes?
Any comments or changes? Again, you're YouTube famous, so if there's anything that we didn't capture in the notes, it is documented in the video.
Good evening. I'll now make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Think. A second, anyone? Well. Okay,
Take roll. Sorry, who made them? Frank made the motion.
Who was the second? Oh,
Dylan, okay, gotcha. All right, take real quick roll call. Chair Guzman to approve the meeting minutes.
yes,
Vice Chair Yip.
Yes.
Committee member Gore is absent. Committee member Hollenbeck. Abstain. Yeah. Committee member McCauley
Here, yeah, yes.
and committee member Hingy. Yes, got it. Minutes are approved.
okay. We ready for administrative business?
Let's do it. Let's launch into it.
Okay.
All right, so, sorry, that was my cue. So.
It's been a long day.
BPAC members, thank you for your time tonight. We have our colleagues and our friends from the San Mateo County Transportation District. And authority, sorry.
Authority.
Here to present the regional transit connections plan. And so this is part of their roadshow, here to tell us what's going on.
Want me to drive? Great. Okay. Oop.
No, we want you to take transit. That's what we're here to talk about.
Nice. Good segue. Good evening, committee members. My name is Amy Linehan. I am a Government and Community Affairs Officer for the San Mateo County Transportation Authority. I'm here with my colleague Patrick Gilster, Director of Planning and Fund Management. And first of all, wanted to thank you for giving us some time in your agenda tonight to come discuss our regional transit connections plan. We were beginning a broad public outreach phase as of last week, and then we'll go through the end of April. And so we wanted to make sure we came and talked to your committee about the plan, and what we're hoping to accomplish during this outreach phase and what kind of feedback we're trying to get and some of the technical information that we're putting together as part of this plan and the goals associated with that. I'm just gonna click and we're gonna figure out how to advance. Nope.
Roll down.
Ah, there we go.
PDF.
Okay, we have a brief agenda here, some introductions. Patrick is going to take you through an RTC program overview, our existing conditions summary. I will take over and talk about our community and stakeholder engagement activities. And we were really hoping to spend a few minutes in sort of a discussion with you about some of the findings that we've had and any kind of feedback you might have for the presentation that we give you. And then we'll have time for questions and wrap up, and we'll do our best to make good use of your evening tonight, and hopefully have a good discussion and a good presentation with y'all. So I'm going to turn it over to Patrick, and he's going to take us through the majority of this, and then he'll turn it back to me.
Thanks, Amy.
Mhm.
Nice to meet all of you. As I said, Patrick Elser, Director of Planning, Fund Management at the TA. Most people know us for funding. So we manage the Measure A and Measure W sales taxes for transportation projects here in San Mateo County. We were created in 1988 with the passage of our original Measure A. But we fund all different types of programs that come out of those sales taxes, from highways, local streets and roads funding that goes directly to our cities, grade separation projects, transit, a whole host of funding under that for ferries and shuttles, like the shuttles here in South City that we fund good size of as well. So excited to see all those now. Our Petted Bicycle program, our TDM program, but our kind of newest program is really this RTC program that we're going to talk about today. Some of the other things we're known for is providing our technical assistance. So we do lead projects on behalf of cities sometimes, and some of the major capital projects like the Express Lane projects that you've seen opened out in the wild now, and other projects that are coming up as well. So Measure A and Measure W. So Measure A produces about $100 million annually that's managed by the Transportation Authority. It's actually now up to about $120 million per year. So the sales taxes, even with the pandemic, have been holding strong here in San Mateo County. On the Measure W side, actually half of it is directly managed by Samtrans. So 50% of Measure W of that funds goes directly to Samtrans. So while Chris said we're not the Samtrans, we're actually nestled under Samtrans at the Transit District. So we are a separate agency, but also under the Samtrans umbrella. It's nice and confusing. If you see our emails at the end, they also say Samtrans to make it even more fun. But as you can see on the far right of Measure W is this regional transit connections category. When Measure W was passed in 2018, we didn't have an equivalent category like we often do in the Measure A category. So many of them go hand in hand from the highway category, translated over to Measure W. We have grade separations, bike and ped, all kind of existing programs. But this one we had really no guidance on other than it's supposed to support regional transit. So we're out working with the transit agencies and coming to different groups like this to see what this fund can be used for. Some other things that SMCTA is leading, just to give you kind of a sense of that, the things we've been working on, is our 101 Corridor Connect program we got launched last year. We're right now working on our North County multimodal strategy, which includes South San Francisco. So it's taking a look at the 101 corridor and understanding what else can be done in terms of congestion management that's not just a highway project. So bike and pedestrian projects, transit projects like these, but then going into each city and doing outreach with each city to understand what are the priorities locally that the TA can help lead and support for our cities as well. The 10192 Mobility Hub and Smart Corridor Plan. So we are leading the planning effort with the City of San Mateo and Samtrans under the interchange at 10192. There's a Caltrans park and ride lot that's going to become a transit mobility hub for different transit services locally and the future express bus services for Samtrans to connect with the northern parts of the county and onward to San Francisco as well. And then a class 4 two-way separated bikeway it's about 1.5 miles long that will bridge under the interchange. We're working with the City and County Association of Governments right now, CCAG, on the countywide automated vehicle strategic plan, really looking at how we can support the future rollout of different services, not just what you hear about Waymo coming to San Mateo County, but also shared autonomous vehicle pilots, things like you see in Contra Costa County or on Treasure Island, and where those kind of shuttles could potentially come to San Mateo County as well. Well, we're kicking off this year, actually this next month, the Active 101 crossings plan, and that is going to take a look at how to do bicycle and pedestrian projects that are interchanges that are lower cost. And then working with cities along the entire 101 corridor to understand, instead of our massive interchange projects that you often see, trying to figure out, are there $5 to $10 million options instead of $180, $300 million to make things safer for people walking and biking? So I'm sure we'll be back when that kicks off to talk to you about that more specifically too. And then also in Atherton, we're working with the town and with the adjacent jurisdictions on the El Camino Real Complete Streets Plan. And that's a really exciting effort to see how bike ped transit improvements can work in that corridor, bridge the gap between Redwood City and Menlo Park and North Fair Oaks. And so partnering with all those agencies and the communities there and different community-based organizations to make sure that project, while often Atherton is known for being very wealthy, like their segment of El Camino Real is really meant to support other areas of the county as well. So we're working with Samtrans in the town to make sure that happens as well. So lots of exciting things that are underway that we're just trying to make sure people know that are out there, and if they want to get involved, they can as well. And that's just a snapshot of some of the things we're working on.
So can you help Chris with the demonstration product?
We did.
Thank
Yes. Yes. Millie Tollison and I from Samtrans that helped, and Amy was part of some of that too. So
Thank you. I
Of
hope you
course.
got to see it.
That was very cool.
yeah, we were all very and excited to see what else that leads to. So, but really back to what we're here to talk.
Sorry.
No, you're, oh yeah, feel free to interrupt.
Feel free to
me.
interrupt.
Yeah. This doesn't have to be a very formal print. I'll try to get through the bulk of this, but so like we mentioned, it's 10% of Measure W. And really what our current TA strategic plan told us to do was that you have no guidance on this, create a planning effort to actually talk to the public, work with our stakeholders, and work with the transit agencies to understand what is the landscape of projects and operations that this should support. So what this plan will do, so we have the Regional Transit Connections Funding Program, and this Regional Transit Connections Plan will inform how we give out the funding in that program. So if you hear those two terms used interchangeably, we try to keep them separate if we can, but we'll know what you mean. So the main purpose of our plan is to establish guidelines for the competitive funding program for the Regional Transit Connections and really support preparation and evaluation of grant programs. So if you're familiar with our Ped Bike competitive program, it will be a similar effort of transit agencies instead of cities that will apply to us for projects.
What's the definition of regional there?
I'll get to that. I think it's on my next slide, actually. And then we'll be providing information to different applicants and the public about current travel trends and unmet travel needs. We're also coordinating with MTC on some of their regional transit efforts as well. And looking at developing a capital improvement plan that will assess the whole sphere of eligible projects from those agencies that this could help fund. And then we can understand how much of our funding can be leveraged with other local, state, and regional funding and federal funding potentially. Let me see if it's my next one. My next one. So when we were doing our strategic plan that we have now, it's from 2020 to 2024 for the entire Transportation Authority. We identified that there's about 700,000 trips that originate in San Mateo County and end in our 3 adjacent counties. So for us, we're considering regional those 3 counties, because when we took a look at, and I'll show some data in the next slide, where people are going and coming from, it really was not much beyond those 3 counties. So that's kind of, we've limited the scope to those. If there was a project that could justify beyond further than that, that they are really facilitating San Mateo trips, whether that's businesses or residents, it could still be eligible for this program, but for the sake of all of us, we're just kind of narrowing it down to those 3 adjacent counties. And then really we're looking to have this fund encourage drivers to choose transit and help improve travel to and from San Mateo County, while also helping us hopefully reach our climate goals. So yeah, then the Measure W is providing the funding for helping support those. So what do we mean by regional transit connections projects? So the way it's defined in the Measure W expenditure plan is very brief. And so it's really centered around funding transit improvements such as rail, ferry, and express bus services, and similar types of things that go between the counties. So things like while Samtrans provides local bus services, This fund would only go to things that are regional, so a express bus from like San Mateo County or San Mateo at the 10192 interchange, that would go to downtown San Francisco, not necessarily just the local bus service. The unique thing about this fund, as compared to any other category we have, is it can fund both operations and capital projects. So an example of that, kind of, if we take an express bus service, for the example, it can fund capital improvements to a station and purchases a bus, or it can, or it can also fund the ongoing operations for that. So this fund could offset something like Samtrans funds for that. So Samtrans can focus on local bus service here in the county. Other things it can provide projects for are rider experience and station access improvements. So that is first last mile connections. So somehow we have to figure out what qualifies as a first last mile connection. Rider experience meaning things like wayfinding. That MTC is doing the regional wayfinding study and plan. So trying to figure out how this could support our transit agencies, incorporating them to those. Yeah.
So with this, should I think of BART and Caltrain and light rail? All of these are eligible?
Yep.
Good.
Yep. And then, and WETA for the new ferry terminals and vessels, enhanced express bus services. So right now we are just wrapping up our existing conditions phase and working with all of the transit agencies that are on our working group to create this whole sphere of projects in this project inventory. We're just kicking off our community and stakeholder engagement. That's why we're here tonight. And we'll be wrapping that up at the end of April. So we'll actually be doing engagement, not just here in San Mateo County, but we're actually going to be going to the adjacent counties as well, and doing targeted outreach with different groups there. And Amy will talk a little bit more about the engagement process at the end. But taking all that feedback and developing a capital improvement program, and then hopefully adopting our program and plan framework in September, and then kicking off our first call for projects grant funds next year. So I mentioned this has been accruing funds since Measure W was adopted in 2018. So 2019, we started accruing funds. So there's already 40+ million accrued dollars in there. So, and then looking at it, it's about 9 to 10 million annually that the fund accrues. So probably by then we'll have around $50 million of funds to give out to support transit here in the county. A little bit about our existing conditions that we talked about, kind of what do we mean by regional travel? And then we looked a little bit further to define what are the services right now that actually are supporting the regional transit network. And that is AC Transit, BART, Caltrain, Samtrans, the Bay Ferry for WETA, and SFMTA. The only agency you don't see on here that's part of our working group is Santa Clara BTA. They don't actually have any services that come north across our border yet, but should they plan one with Samtrans or Caltrain, they're obviously part of the Caltrain service area as well. So they're part of that working group as well. But in terms of transit, it's a fairly more limited network when we take a look at what we see at the existing network. So you see kind of the ferries in the middle, nothing across the middle San Mateo Bridge. Right now, there used to be, I think it was measured, or not measured, Route M. From
Yes.
DC Transit that used to operate there. The potential that something like that could come back in the future. And then there's the Dumbarton Express, Caltrain North and South, and then a few express bus services that Samtrans operates as well. You know, the EPX was one that just opened, and FCX from Foster City, I think are the two
Those are the two.
right now.
Yes, yes, correct.
Gotta know a lot about my partners at Samtrans too. So that's what we consider kind of the existing network. We then took a look at a lot of big data about where are trips actually coming to San Mateo County. And if our post-pandemic numbers match our pre-pandemic numbers from what you saw earlier. So right now we're looking at about 3 million trips that begin in San Mateo County. So this is trips of any mode of transportation. So just where anyone with, can't remember if this is cell phone or GPS data, is going to. So surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, when we look at the next slide, there is 76.8% of those trips are staying in the county. So a large portion of San Mateo County residents either work and live in San Mateo County on a regular weekday. However, there's still a large number of trips that are going north to San Francisco. And then a little bit smaller going south to Santa Clara, and while not as much going across to Alameda, that could just be that folks are choosing not to do that right now as well because of the services that are limited. So while that data is there, it's often people may opt out of using transit or traveling here to San Mateo County altogether because there's not necessarily easier, convenient ways to do it. As someone who lives in the East Bay, I understand that. But can enjoy that we get to work a few days in the office and a few at home. So, so this plan actually is really important to me.
Me too.
Going to get better services out there. Where we saw a lot of this coming from is really since the pandemic, as I'm sure most people in this room have seen, transit usage has gone down tremendously, and a lot of our agencies are facing fiscal cliffs because of that in the coming years. But when we look at compared to the other counties, we are a little bit more percentage-wise in the terms number of people who have stopped using transit, and almost, I think, the second highest one in the amount of people who can work from home. That's a good and a bad. So fortunate for people that can, but still this leaves out a lot of people that don't have an option as well. So while we can see a lot of people can work from home, and that may be a consequence of the types of jobs in San Mateo County versus other counties, it still doesn't address everyone. But we still want to make sure that we are improving public transit to make sure people who need to take transit can use it as well. Just some interesting maps that we wanted to share, kind of in South San Francisco will show up a lot on these maps. So one of the main reasons why we're here tonight is really that we took a look at from San Mateo County, where the trip's going to and from those three adjacent counties. So when we took a look at Alameda County, you can see they're either right where the ferries go across, accessing kind of the hub in South San Francisco and SFO, and then less so in the middle of the county and some right towards the end across the Dumbarton Bridge. A lot of the folks that are coming from Alameda County are coming right across that bridge right there, kind of all along kind of the coast of the bay. And then fewer from Dublin, Pleasanton, Livermore, kind of further out there as well. When we took a look at San Francisco to San Mateo County travel patterns, a lot of these were not surprisingly kind of centered in the north part of the county. Can't quite see it, maybe I can move. Let's go like this for now. Okay, as you can kind of see, most of the trips that travel to and from the two counties occur in the northern part of the counties, Daly City, South San Francisco, Brisbane, and potentially on down to Millbrae. But really they're going across right into the southern part of the city or towards the financial district, kind of so kind of the big transportation employment hubs. Go back. And then last but certainly not least is trips to Santa Clara County. So interestingly enough, trips coming from San Mateo County aren't going too many more places than kind of the Palo Alto Mountain View kind of limit from there, which we thought was pretty interesting. So kind of centered around those hubs right across the county border, but then kind of spread all along the southern part of our county here, and then up to the South San Francisco area. So even folks coming all the way from Santa Clara could be coming all the way up to South San Francisco and vice versa. So we found that pretty interesting as well. The other thing we're taking a look at that we're interested to hear more from potentially you all tonight is really how other modes are supporting regional transit. And so we've been taking a look at things like micromobility and talking to MTC about their possible expansion into San Mateo County with the Bay Wheels stations. There's different bike lockers that could support first last mile connections. There's the Spin, now Bird, bike share program pilot that we're funding in Burlingame and Millbrae. So figuring out how this fund can also support those type of things as well, knowing that regional transit in and of itself isn't going to function without those other types of things to get people to and from it. Transit's often not just transit in a silo, people have to normally walk, bike, or drive sometimes there as well. But really that's a part of our regional transit, talking to employers and they're learning about more about their shuttles, So Apple, Genentech, Meta, Google, Stanford, and others. And then how the regional express lane also supports those kind of services as well. We've also been coordinating with MTC on their Transit 2050 plus endeavor. And as part of that, they identified regional needs and gaps. So kind of I'll just down a little bit further. The interesting thing about it from us, and this is really kind of post-COVID recovery and looking at what needs need to be met, our north-south services on the peninsula and east-west services still show up. So even with kind of services already there, there's still more latent demand for improvements to transit and how we can help with those, both in peak and non-peak periods. So both the kind of Caltrain US 101 corridor, the San Mateo Bridge, the Dumbarton Bridge, and even the downtown San Francisco, kind of getting over from the other part of Oakland to San Francisco and down to the peninsula, all still show up as very important gaps. So we're working with MTC as well and their regional network folks and their major transit corridors folks to understand what projects that this funding could support those regional efforts as well.
Me.
I'll hand it off to Amy, right? So you can stop listening to me.
Now you can listen to me. So again, Amy Linehan, a Government Community Affairs Officer. So any of you in the room that have ever worked with Samtrans or Caltrain, another one of our sister agencies, knows that we do a lot of outreach. We put a big emphasis on community and stakeholder engagement for any of our planning projects. And in the beginning of the presentation, Patrick talked a lot about the initiatives that the TA have going on right now and are coming up in the future. And outreach is going to be a component of all of those. And so when we started to think about putting together this regional connections plan, we wanted to make sure that we were deploying a broad community and stakeholder engagement effort. Also a multilingual stakeholder and community engagement effort. So we officially kicked that off last week. And there's a number of different components that are going to be included in this outreach effort, virtual and in person as well. We are going to be having a virtual community meeting early next month. An online community meeting where people can come and get a presentation similar to this, but also an opportunity to provide us some additional feedback about how they think the regional transit connections plan and program should be developed and what the priorities for that funding program are. That will be a multilingual community meeting. We stood up a web page specific to this project that has all of the different project elements on it and provides information about the virtual community meeting and all of the additional events that will occur throughout the next 6 weeks. We are going to be having some in-person pop-up events in San Mateo County, in the East Bay and in San Francisco. Those pop-up events provide us an opportunity to engage one-on-one with people in the community, to talk to them about what their transit needs are and how they're using transit to travel regionally. If they are, what are the things that can be improved? What are the gaps that they see? And if they aren't, if they're staying in their car, what can be done to get them out of their car? What kind of service would that could be stood up to say, hey, you know, I can take a bus today. I don't need to get in my car. That bus is there. I can do this. We're also meeting with a number of small groups, labor groups, community organization, and employer groups, just to have some really, 5 to 10 people really get into the weeds about what they think needs to be improved in terms of transit to and from San Mateo County. Really what this is about is tailoring the community and stakeholder feedback to make sure that once we stand this grant program up, that it really addresses those gaps. Our primary feedback loop is a multilingual online survey that we stood up last week. It closes at the end of April, and that takes people through, it's a pretty quick survey, 10, 15 minutes at the most, takes people through a variety of questions, asking them how they're traveling regionally, if they're traveling regionally, when they're traveling regionally, are they doing it to get to work, grocery store, something else? Again, if you are taking transit, what can be improved about your transit experience? if you're not taking transit, why aren't you taking transit? What can be changed? Again, getting back to identifying those gaps in the system. Our social media team has all of tweets, and we're not supposed to call them that anymore, X's or whatever they're called. We're using Facebook to make sure that our outreach is also on a virtual scale too. I'm controlling this. So really, as I mentioned, the primary feedback loop here is our online survey. It's multilingual. Our customer service department is also on standby to help anybody who needs to fill out the survey if they have any visual impairments, if they don't have access to the internet, if they need someone to read the questions for them and actually fill it out. Our customer service team has been trained and knows how to do that and is available to help anybody who needs that kind of access assistance. I'm going to be sending Chris a lot of emails over the next few weeks, encouraging him to get the message out about our pop-ups and our community meeting and our online survey. Again, that survey really is kind of the primary feedback loop. It's the easiest way to get the public's opinion. But we are going to be talking to a lot of small groups like yours will be out. You may see us at a farmer's market. You may see us at a BART station. You may also see us on the ferry one night if you take the ferry. So we're really putting a lot of emphasis on the public engagement side of this. It's not, public engagement isn't really something that people usually associate with the TA. I think it's because a lot of people think that we just build highways. And that's kind of those two things don't necessarily always go hand in hand. But we're really taking a step back and making sure that people do associate TA planning projects and highway projects with that public outreach element, so that these projects really are based on what the public wants to see, not just what we think we want to build. I think that's it for me. Oh, so this is where we're actually going to put you on the spot. We've put it, and this is really an important element of this discussions that we're having with a lot of our groups. And I say put you on the spot. If you don't have the answers to these questions right now, that is fine. Please feel free to let Chris know. But I really think we wanted to see if there was anything we missed, any existing conditions that we looked at that we missed, any sort of things that we talked about throughout the presentation that you think we missed, travel trends that were not included. And which county would you like to be prioritized for travel connections with San Mateo County? Is it San Francisco? Is it Santa Clara? Is it Alameda County? Based on what you know about people using transit to travel regionally, I'm saying that a lot fast, transit to travel regionally. In South City, you guys are the South City experts tonight. So we're kind of counting on you to provide us a little bit of insight. And then how do you think regional transit connections can be improved in San Mateo County? Is it more direct routes and fewer transfers? Is it shorter wait times? Is it more rider education initiatives? Or is it something that we don't even know is out there and we haven't asked the question yet?
Are you gonna go to the colleges? Because right now, my son, he's attending Skyline. I mean, are you ready for the feedback? Are you?
Oh, yes, always ready for
Attending
feedback.
Skyline, but he couldn't get a class there, so he had to go to CSM. But there's no easy way for him to take public transit between Skyline and CSM. And a lot of them are having a hard time getting all the classes they need and
Okay.
having to go even to Kenyatta. There's no easy way between the three community colleges. I'm sorry, you guys.
Good one here.
And we only have one car, so I can't drive him all the time or what have you. So that would be great. I don't know if college students will tell you what they need, but you might consider popping into the,
Okay, yeah,
because that's missing in my life.
okay.
Way to get CSM from here.
Yeah, I think, so I see better links here between transit and other options, but I think a big one is just better links to the transit from the origin is a big one. So I think, we have a lot of older roads here that are just generally dangerous to be on if you're thinking about biking or taking some kind of scooter. And, I think when it comes down to it, somebody's thinking, okay, like, can I get safely to this transit option? And if the answer is no, I mean, can't blame them for not taking it, right? But if you can maybe focus on specific corridors that could be improved for safety, right? So if I can get on my bike and get to, let's say, El Camino Real becomes this pristine biking road, then maybe I can go, from my house, a couple blocks that maybe aren't super safe, but I can get to El Camino Real and then cruise to the transit station. Suddenly my answer may be yes, whereas previously it was no. And so I think having long continuous connectors along, as much of this kind of dense, origin points that you have from your data set as possible, it seems like an optimization problem to me, where if you focus on safety, like, and hitting as many of like the origins as possible or close to them, like you could get along a lot of people using transit that otherwise I think they would just not be comfortable enough from a safety perspective. You can't solve all the point to point, right, road problems, but the closer you can get, I think it'll go a long way.
I agree with him, because I'm not young anymore. It's not safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm curious if this, does this cover things like improvements to the payment system, like Clipper and all that? Is that outside the scope of this?
We're actually working with MTC right now to understand what that is being funded through. So part of this could be Samtrans or Caltrain or BART as part of their share of San Mateo County towards kind of regional things like that. That could be eligible, yeah. I still have to work out exactly how we figure out what that proportion is. We don't want to pay for the entire 9 Bay Area region from just San Mateo County, but definitely our funding could support our transit agencies for our portion of that as well.
Yeah, I have a few questions. This is a great presentation. I guess a lot of my questions are about where this fits in the larger context of the TA. Does the TA do like long-range planning that kind of looks at where all the funds should go and how that reaches its goals? One of the issues that I really care about is climate. And I saw that was one of the goals of this plan, but I think because this is such a small portion of the TA's funding, it can only go so far. So like, if we're like a more holistic view.
The TA is, we're interesting. We are often at the will of who our sponsors are that come apply for projects. So on the transit side, we can't necessarily control what projects people apply for. We can try to encourage better projects. So we are starting to change how we can help get more funding. Like Amy mentioned, we actually didn't have a lot of planning that happened before I came on board. So when I came on board, I was a little bit terrified that we didn't do outreach in these kind of ways, coming from the pedestrian bicycle world myself before this. So
You're saying there's no like, oh boy.
there's no holistic comparison of all the programs and all the funding because we don't know all the projects that come each cycle and what that will be. So we try to do that with the kind of these capital improvement programs in each segment.
Because as a city, Chris and his team, they have a big plan for us.
Yep.
And then we try to support as we can. Am I saying it right?
No, respectfully, we're all in the same boat because we also had 0 plans and programs prior to more recently, like.
Well, I only joined recently.
No, exactly. So we're all kind of struggling with the same thing. And like, oh, so nobody has thought of this until basically when Chris got here. So it's a really painful place to be sometimes. So.
But to answer that a little bit further, just to help, it's hard for us because our programs are competitive. We can't guarantee that your project is going to get funding each cycle and things like that. So we can try, we're trying our best to do that, but to meld every program with competitive funding, it'd be like taking the state's active transportation and solutions for congested corridors and all these, we're trying to mesh them all together. We're trying to mix and match to leverage better projects, but it takes some time.
Are there metrics? So if one of the goals is climate, which you had on the goal slide, are there metrics that you use to help prioritize which projects you want to do? Because I can see there's a lot of different goals that you have. Climate, if your goal is climate, it's probably to get people out of their cars. And so it's people who already have money to drive, go to probably expensive transit. If your goal is equity, then you might have, different funds. Do you have, can you describe what metrics you're using?
we are just at the beginning of the project. So we're actually going to be establishing metrics as part of the project. So part of this is going to see what is important to the public, and then we're going to take, so this is just a snapshot of actually the different things that are in the survey. So if you go online for the survey, there's a whole host of different reasons why you would choose transit or why you wouldn't choose transit. So we're trying to figure out how to take those. I think things like the safety comment are important too. Is it safety getting to transit? Is it security on transit? Is it environment that's important? All those things we're trying to look. So any feedback you have now, great on what metrics you'd like to see.
I would love to see a mode shift goal. San Mateo County has a pretty high drive alone rate, like for all types of trips, not just to work. And just like investing in regional trips to get people out of their cars. I would also be curious to see what the mode share is of different, I would imagine San Francisco trips into San Mateo County have a higher transit rate because BART and Caltrain come from San Francisco, whereas VTA, there's almost a wall between whatever the southernmost city is and Palo Alto is Menlo Park or Atherton, I always forget.
Menlo and
Menlo.
Palo Alto, yeah.
And then from the East Bay, there's almost no transit. There might be a regional bus, but there's almost no transit. And then so my last question is on the politics of this plan. I imagine you're also going to elected officials. Is there like a strategy to make elected officials realize that this 10% in Measure W is 10%, it's a small fraction of, and we should try to grow the pie so we can put more towards big projects like this? Or that, I mean, it's outside the scope of this project, but like, is there a larger effort?
So there's not necessarily a larger effort with this. So the way the sales taxes work is we have actually, they're voter approved percentages. So the TA and the TA board actually has no authority to change those. So we'd have to actually go out to the voters again with an amendment to that to even change that. So that's not even something our strategic plan has the power to do. What we can do is talk about with them how this funds can leverage other funds to bring more money into the county for that.
I imagine staff put together Measure W, right?
Before my time.
But
Yeah.
staff put together Measure W, staff also can work with electeds to like, to change it, and even if it's like a 30-year, whatever, I don't know what it is, but there's like a horizon date.
The important one to keep on, left Measure W, that sunsets in 2049. Measure A sunsets in 2033. And so when I'm back on the slide, we have a whole host of different things there. So actually in the next, we normally start those planning 5 or 6 years ahead of when we actually start to pass the bill. So probably in another, 4 to 5 years, we're going to be looking at the reauthorization of Measure A. And that's when we'll want to have that bigger conversation about what new percentages should look like for that.
It is, as it stands right now, Measure A, Measure W, there's not a lot of wiggle room. There's no wiggle room to be able to shift something from another pot to one pot or another. There's not, you can't grow the 10% right now as it stands.
Yeah.
I think the thing that you want to highlight here is the fact that there are a lot of gaps in the transit system, in the transit network. And there are a lot of needs. And this project and this program shows that. And the success of that, at the end of the day, is what we want to be highlighting to our local electeds and our stakeholders about how this is an important element. And, maybe it needs to grow. But that's not something that you can do right now as it stands with Measure W.
The interesting thing will be the capital improvement plan when we show holistically with all of our transit agencies that support San Mateo County travel, what is the whole need? So often we talk about what does Samtrans need, what does Caltrain's need, what does BART's need, but not really what is the real importance of transit as a whole to the county. And I'm imagining, knowing how expensive transit projects are, that we're going to still have a large unmet need.
Yeah, this
even
is
when we
right. And I think that's the takeaway is that there will remain an unmet need. Even after we're able to fund a lot of new and cool initiatives, there will still be gaps. And that's a conversation that we can be held down the line with our elected officials about the need for this and how there's more need that needs to be filled.
Yeah, I just want to whatever the voters passed, I don't remember what year it was. But
It was 2019.
Whatever the voters,
Measure W.
so that means I probably voted for it. Whatever the voters passed, it could be amended through another proposition, like is there political will to amend?
The reality is probably no.
No,
Yeah. So you would have to get the Board of Supervisors to say, well, yes, we would approve an amendment to go out to the voters again to do that. That runs the risk of it not being passed or potentially repealed. So it would have to be a fairly big deal to take something like that back out to the voters.
But I mean, I think the takeaway here is this is a really unique initiative that the TA is taking on right now. Not only does it, it funds transit program, but it also funds operations. And I think this is an opportunity to really take the needs and the gaps and address those and highlight those and the good things that we're able to do with the money in this plan right now.
Remember Measure A.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of the biggest thing, is to focus on what we have the power to change.
Mhm.
So,
It's
and it
hard-
sounds like a
it's
long
hard to-
way.
It sounds like you should be able to move it back and forth, but you can't, so.
Well, I would like to say that I really appreciate the new, Samtrans route express from East Palo Alto to
BPAC?
San Francisco.
Mhm.
I haven't taken it yet, but it takes me an hour to go from South City into San Francisco, and the one that runs down Airport Boulevard,
Mhm.
292. A friggin' hour, it's just a long drive. But so that's I'll have to. I can get that one in San Bruno at the BART station, which is kind of nice. But it seems to me that you guys would be perhaps in the best position to get BART through San Mateo County and connect it around the bend. I think we're the last county to hold it up. Would that be accurate?
I think Caltrain is hoping to be that connection with the electrification.
When my husband worked in Santa Clara County, he had a hard time with Caltrain. Bart is.
I can't speak for Caltrain, so I won't say anything more than that. but
Sorry, Bart's been more reliable for him.
I think part of that is it sounds more like reliability than is an issue about the current rail service.
And the existing goal is to get the BART to Santa Clara, right?
Sorry?
Isn't the existing goal to get BART to Santa Clara?
Well, it comes down to the East Bay into Santa Clara County. It was just that San Mateo County, I guess, voted against it back 100 years ago, a long time ago. And so now we've got it into the county, connecting that down to Santa Clara shouldn't be that hard of a problem. I lived in London for a couple of years, and so using the subway is just fantastic. Never owned a car in Ireland or England, but I come here, you had to have a car. So it's like, we need to really improve the public transportation.
I think there's a project called Seamless Bay Area that's pushing for that connection.
Okay.
This is a,
These are the guys that have the money.
maybe so, but what was the total pie? It was 100 million?
The
Or W?
total Measure W is
Measure
100 million.
Yeah, and this is 10% or something.
Yeah, this is about 9 to 10
BART
million
is,
annually.
I think BART is pretty expensive. stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess to that point, if you don't have infinite money to address everything you'd possibly want to, do you have a stance on, excuse me, how you would approach distribution of funds across, many projects or few projects? Because I think it might be beneficial to think about, okay, let's focus on a few places that we can show like, hey, we really improved this particular part, and people are, taking transit way more frequently in this corridor where previously it wasn't happening, as opposed to like, oh, well, peanut butter spread across 100 different projects and not even be able to really measure the impact. I think, yeah, it'd be good to see, the success story or a couple success stories with this fund instead of it kind of, disappearing out there across too many things.
So we handle that a few different ways, or we can handle it a few different ways with this. So part of it is if there are clear corridors or projects that come up, we can say these are, in some of our other programs, we say countywide significant projects get more points for evaluation, or those are the things we focus on. So there could be a way that we narrow this down to kind of mega projects gets a bigger bucket, and that's certain projects. We can take that 10% and say 50% goes to operations, 50% goes to capital. I'm just making these percentages up based on the needs from the capital improvement plan. Or we can then say, well, the public said these 3 corridors are the most important, investments should be prioritized there. The bulk of the funding should go to support those, and the rest should support anything else. So we have flexibility for how we handle that. It just kind of depends on what we hear throughout this project, through this process with the public engagement. Our working group is really the transit agency, so I don't think any of them are really going to say, no, don't give me money. So that's why this is, the public part of this is really important for us to say, well, we want our San Mateo dollars to go to San Mateo's most important projects. So does that answer your question? We still, it's.
Yeah, I think so.
that
I mean,
should be
it sounds
decided.
like, yeah, you're going to be deciding on that. I think it would be good for the public too, to just be able to refer back to like, oh, I can see these improvements actually helping this area. And so I'm more willing to, vote for the next set of funding or whatever it is later on.
Oh, for their next campaign ad.
Is the Bay Trail being considered as part of regional transit? I don't.
It could. Yeah, I mean, the Bay Trail accesses the ferry system, especially here, right? So we're looking at what does first last mile mean for this connection? And so I think clearing clearly that safety along major corridors that access transit stations is really important. Bay Trail could be one of those kind of connections. I think my hunch, and I don't know exactly how we'll figure this out, but is projects within a certain distance of a major transit station could be eligible as those first last mile connections. We're gonna have to narrow it down, and not every project in every city's ped bike plan would be eligible, but those, I think really they love the point about the major corridors. And if you can't even decide to walk out your door and get to transit, you're not gonna take transit. So I think that's really important. And is that just walking, biking, or is that the shuttles too potentially?
I think about Bay Trail in particular because getting from South San Francisco to San Francisco on a bicycle is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And I do it on a regular basis, but that takes, not many people are willing to do it. If we had better trail links, it would make a huge difference.
That to work. So we could say maybe even connecting to we don't call it Brisbane Station. What do we call that one?
Oh, the train stations?
Yeah,
The one in the middle of nowhere.
I should know this. I can't remember all the names of the
I don't know
Caltrain
all the names of the Caltrain stations.
But yeah,
Yeah.
there is a huge gap. You're right. Even from getting from the border of San Francisco and San Francisco all the way down into South City.
I'm assuming that big project in Brisbane will address some of that, but. Yeah. Ongoing.
So, and I'll give you a concrete example, right? We have the Centennial Trail here, which is a nice corridor. We have the Bay Trail portion over by the ferry, which is a nice corridor. They're not connected, right? So there's maybe like a quarter mile, half mile gap between the two. So 5 years from now, if I'm biking with my daughter and we're gonna go to Alameda, am I gonna take the ferry? No. I can get to Centennial Trail safely. I can get all the way over to where it is pretty safely, but I can't get over to the Bay Trail. And so I'm not gonna get to the ferry, and so I'm not gonna take regional transit. So it's really, those corridors, connecting the corridors, I think it's a pretty big deal.
Sure.
It's great feedback.
How do folks feel about things like bicycle and scooter share here?
They're nice. I mean, I like when I travel, if I'm traveling to a place and they're, they have reasonable infrastructure where I don't feel like I'm gonna get hit by a car immediately, I'll take them. Yeah.
I think South City was the first city to have Lime Bike, like as a permitted, maybe even before San Francisco had it, I think. If I'm not mistaken, I think Lime Bike was the first city that it ever happened. And it wasn't used that much, and I think that's why Lime Bike left. I think cost was an issue. It was expensive.
A lot of those bikes ended up in the ground too.
Yeah, and people don't like it because they saw it as like private. But, I know they're like, your partner agency, CCAG, or if it is, is working on the bike share, scooter share program to have like a more San Mateo County focused one instead of Bay Area wide. I like that idea, especially if it's sponsored by the county. I think it could, if it's affordable, the more people can take it.
One of my problem is I see people without helmets on the scooters and on the bicycles. That's one of the problems.
Yeah.
And then they're parking all over the place. Sometimes I'm walking down the sidewalk and I can't get past, but somebody abandoned their bicycle.
I think that's gotten better, but it definitely still is a problem.
Sorry?
That's gotten better, I think.
It has, well, that's because we don't have them in town anyway now.
Oh, I just think in general, I feel like those companies have done more work to make people park better.
They'll slap you with a big fee now if you put it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Burlingame and Millbrae one has designated areas you're supposed to like drop it off. Like that.
But yeah, if we could get those sorts of things, particularly if we could connect those to the major transit hubs, that'd be great, right? You get off Caltrain or whatever and take one of the bikes, why?
Am I hearing BPAC as an appetite for micro mobility? Take that note real quick. The end product of this is a capital improvement plan. Does that then supersede all the efforts done to reimagine families and like the bus service changes?
No, the capital improvement plan is more of a living document to us. It's really just to say, here are the existing projects that we know of. And then we're gonna actually compare that to, if there's any projects that the public identified that aren't addressed by those projects, then we'll come up with, okay, we have these gap type projects that need to be assessed. And our consultant will help us kind of say, what kind of order of magnitude project and who could address that? Could those take on? All of those would just be the eligible projects that are probably going to go to the first round. And really that's actually goes back to one of your comments about, well, how do we say how much funding do we give out to projects? If we see there's $1 billion worth of transit need and our fund does 500 million over the 30 years, that's one of the things of saying, okay, well, maybe we will limit our contribution to those projects to 50% to spread it around to maybe bigger projects, to fewer projects, but bigger projects, or use those percentages accordingly to kind of play with those scales. So, or maybe it's 80% or something like that. But yeah, it would not be superseding anything any of the transit agencies' plans would do. While I'm interested in this, I am not a transit planner myself.
No, it does not.
I'm not the one who should be making those decisions.
It does not supersede reimagine.
Last chance, BPAC.
You have till the end of April.
You have to,
Well,
and
yeah, actually,
Will you
last
send out the
chance.
link for the?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you, sir.
And we actually have to report back to our manager's office, make sure they have this information to distribute. That's
The
all.
mayor's letter.
Yeah. Yeah.
We make the mayor work hard. Okay.
well, if you have any questions or additional feedback, Chris has our contact information. Feel free to reach out. And we will be providing additional information about the webpage and the survey and all of that.
Thank you for taking all our
Of course,
feedback.
we appreciate your,
This is the fun part. of the
Yeah.
job.
this,
Get out of the office.
we get to get out of the office, we get to talk to people. It's great. Yeah, so thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, our contact information is on the back
So
of each of the
the last
presentations.
slide has our, has our contact information. And it probably will, in Chris's computer, if it pops up, it's in a P, Patrick Elster comes.
Yes.
That's not you.
That's true. Every time I pop an email, Pete, need something from that.
The brown donuts or something.
No, we should write you donuts.
Our main job is to give out our funding, so we're excited to see it go to projects.
Yes.
We're doing our job well.
All right, well, it looks like our next on our agenda is our
Thank you so
favorite
much.
project that,
We will get out of your hair.
okay, thank you for coming.
No problem.
Are we ready to talk about Every Kid Deserves a Bike program?
Sure, just jump right into it.
I got it.
Okay.
Move down if you want. Get out of your way.
Thank you.
I can't hide anymore.
All right, BPAC members, moving on to agenda item number 3. We have Deb from our city manager's office here to tell us what's next for the Every Kid Deserves a Bike program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Devin Stenhouse. I'm the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. If I heard you correctly, this is your favorite program?
It is so much fun talking about the bike.
Yeah, that is so wonderful to hear. So I was
It's
not
my
quite aware.
favorite.
Won't speak for everybody, but I appreciate that. I believe this is the 3rd year that this program has existed. In the past, I believe you heard from Tamiko Huey, who was one of the analysts over at City Hall, who has spearheaded this event for the last 2 years. Tamiko's no longer with us. City, she's alive and well. And
Just with the city of Brent. She's all good.
She is healthy and well. And so, and I believe she was also working with Tiani, who is also living, but just not with the city. So this is actually my first time spearheading this project, so I'm learning a lot. I've spoken with a number of different stakeholders and sponsors for the program. And every time I speak with somebody, I learn something new about the program. So I'm pretty excited for tonight. I don't want to make any assumptions, but is there anybody within this group who is unfamiliar with the program who might not have been here a year ago? Okay. Okay, well, allow me to shed a little light on the program. Every Kid Deserves a Bike it's an equity-based program that started in 2022. And it's an idea from then council member Eddie Flores, where he wanted to provide a mode of transportation, specifically to elementary and middle school age children to schools. Specifically in our underprivileged Title I schools. I believe it started with Spruce and Martin Elementary School. The thought behind that was, this was like that tricky age where, you've got like younger kindergartners, first graders, second graders, we know they have a right to school. High schoolers, for the most part, they're gonna, one way or another, they're gonna be able to get to school, whether it's public transportation, ride from mom or dad, whatever it might be. Whereas middle school, it's kind of like right there in the middle. There's also a sustainability piece to that as well, decreasing our carbon footprint on, our city and our society. Long story short, through a lot of effort to achieve certain grants, they were able to achieve funding to literally provide bikes for children within those two schools. It expanded a year later, last year, it went from 2 schools to 5 schools. And again, we're looking at our Title I schools in the city. So when last year it was Spruce, Martin, Los Cerritos, Sunshine Gardens, and Parkway Heights. And so it went from 150 bikes to 350 bikes that were provided. At each school, the bikes were provided on school campus and during school time, usually towards the end of the day. But I mean, we're talking about partners with San Mateo County Safe Routes to School program. We had Local Motion, which is a bike service. It's a nonprofit organization that helps put bikes together and check for safety and make sure that everything is put together properly. We worked with the police department that was able to register each of the bikes so that if one of the bikes happened to get stolen, we can return it to the appropriate owner. The county was able to donate helmets, kickstands, I mean, on and on. And so it's a really wonderful program. And now we're in our 3rd year. We do have dates for this commission at well as schools. It is expanding a little bit more this year. We have the same schools that were served last year. We did receive an inquiry from the school district. Can we expand to more schools than the 5 that it's already being expanded to? The response to that was not really, just because we don't have the bandwidth to do that. This is a shocking amount of work. Had I really had a conversation with somebody ahead of time, I probably would have asked for a little bit more support. But that said, we are going to expand a little bit though. We're adding a Saturday where select children who are going to be specifically identified from principals at Monteverdi, Ponderosa, and Bury. They will have an opportunity, these select children will have an opportunity to also receive free bicycles. We did pick a Saturday in the Old West Orange Library parking lot to conduct this event. And when I say event, we're talking about registering bicycles, receiving bicycles. We have,
Bike rodeo?
like I said, there'll be a bike rodeo where children are gonna kind of learn like bicycle safety, how to stop at a stop sign, you don't want to foot down. right turn, left turn, on. They're gonna be fitting the bicycle, in accordance to the height of each children. They're gonna show the children how to properly put your helmet on and how to make it fit. So that 6th event is gonna be at West Orange Library. It's a secluded area. Again, this is an equity issue, and the children who are gonna be receiving these bikes, all of them are gonna be coming from families that are qualified as low income families. And so in an effort to, protect their dignity and to kind of, not make this an obvious event, we did select that location just to kind of keep it, away, not necessarily in the eye of the public and their peers. And so, yeah, so that is the actual expansion. So this year we are on slate to serve 353 children at least. And if there's a possibility to serve more after this series of events, we will do that. All of these events are going to be in the month of May, which is National National Bike Month. And it is on purpose. So a couple of the schools reached out and it was, asking if it was possible to do this in April or what have you. And the response was always no. We want to stick to the month of May. So all of that said, I noticed that BPAC was able to provide some excellent insight. Correct me if I'm wrong. There may have been some volunteerism that either some of the committee members.
Yeah, Sunshine
perfect.
Garden and Natalie went.
Yeah, so this is, come on, Frank. So this is.
I was probably in Ireland.
Probably, or Spain or Rome or.
So these events, and it is plural, are heavily reliant on volunteerism. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna be giving bikes to somewhere between 45, a school as low as 45 children, as high as 70 children. To my understanding, there's a good chance 40 to 60% of them do not know how to ride a bike.
Oh.
And so that's where the bike rodeo and the bike safety help really is beneficial for the success of the
Kevin,
program.
just to make a point, you said 40 to 60% can't ride a bike, and that's the benefit, the beauty of this program. You get them a bike when they're young,
Correct.
be a bike rider the rest of their lives. So
Absolutely. Yes, and that is for sure an underlying benefit and purpose for the event. So that said, I just wanted to I wanted to present, I wanted to talk face to face with this particular group. I am looking for feedback, recommendations, just based on our experiences from last year. If there's any questions, I'm asking for feedback. I'm also asking for advocacy. Talk to your resources, your connections, your networks. You will see this up on the website, on the city's website very soon, as an opportunity to recruit more volunteers. And with that, I'm definitely open to questions or recommendations or comments.
So how many, what's the number of bikes being given out this year versus last year?
Last year, it was a high of 350. That was projected. In reality, 302 bikes were distributed. The way that it works is we go to each principal and we leave it up to them. It's not necessarily every single fourth grader in this school is going to receive a bike. They have the potential to. But we really, because this is an equity thing, we really do want the families to be honest, and let us know. Does your child own a bike? If they do own a bike, is this the same bike they rode when they were in first grade? Is this, perhaps if they are still riding that bike that they still had, if they are still riding the bike they used in first grade, second grade, or what have you, it can reasonably be assumed that they're due for an upgrade. But if they just received the bicycle, this past Christmas or what have you, we're looking for that type of honesty also. So right now we're projected to give away 353 bikes today. but that we do anticipate that to fluctuate. Truth be told, we'll also offer bikes to some families who don't have bicycles, who may just not want a bicycle. There's other families who may, for whatever the reason, might not have the space for a bicycle. Yeah, but right now it's 353 bikes.
Last year, I gave the feedback to Tamika that one of the things I'm interested in from this program is to see exactly what Frank said. How many kids become lifelong bike riders?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, is there a plan to like do like a longitudinal study, maybe survey the kids who got bikes a couple years ago and see like, are you still riding your bike or using it for transportation?
Yes and no. So there is a plan to collect more data than what appears to have been collected in the past. We have access to some of the participants from prior years, but not all. So this year, we're going to be very intentional, ensuring that we're collecting information from each and every single child, not family, but child that receives a bike. And so prior to each of the events, they're going to receive a survey. Does your child know how to ride a bike? How often do they ride their bikes on a weekly basis? Do they ride their bikes at school? If so, how come? If not, how come? They're going to see the same 10 to 15 questions before they receive their bikes. And then in a year, they're going to receive the same 10 to 15 questions. And we're just going to see how much those responses change. And then in 2 years, they're going to see the same survey questions again. So yeah, so we would like to see, understanding where this goes on a lifetime scale is going to be a little bit difficult. Not that we can't figure that one out, but
Just started.
but it did just start. But from year to year, though, we're going to be very intentional about let's follow up with this group of children. This funding this year's funding is coming from an earmark that was requested by Assembly Member Diane Pappin. And it's going to be for double the funding that was provided last year.
Because last year, Tamika had
It sounds like there was.
a horrible time getting the money.
Sounds like there was it looks like she was able to achieve her goal, but looking at the dates, it looked like it was close.
It was, and then the assembly of the bikes.
Yes. And so I believe we're in a much better place this year. So we have funding is secured. We're currently just finalizing our contract with Decathlon, who provides the bikes. They've already agreed to assemble the bikes in the East Bay. They're going to deliver bikes that are already assembled. And then we have Locomotion, who will, you can assemble a bike in the East Bay, but then we're going to put it on a truck and it's going to be driving, across the bridge and what have you. And then it's going to be delivered. And then now, is there a guarantee the bikes are all still properly put together? And that's where Locomotion is going to come in, and they're going to inspect each individual bike after it's been delivered.
And they're going to size the bike for the kid?
So prior to the event, they're going to ensure each bike is properly assembled. And then at each event, they will size the bike per child. And they're even going to make adjustments to the bicycle in accordance to which kids know how to ride the bikes. For example, if there's a child who receives their bike, does not know how to ride a bike, they're actually going to take the pedals off the bike. And then when they do their bike rodeo, they can still kind of use their feet like the balance bikes, and the pedals aren't going to be in the way of their legs. And then they're going to have a better idea of how to at least just get that balance down. If it comes to a point where they feel comfortable enough to where they can put the pedals back on the bike, perfect. But if not, though, at the very end of the event, before everybody wraps it up, they'll still put the pedals on, but they'll want to ensure okay, well, you're still not able to ride this bike. How are we going to get you home? So it's going to be a matter of mom, dad, somebody assisting with just getting the bike home.
So Chris sent me to the Safe Routes to School, and I spoke with some of the team from Redwood City, and they did a 5-week bicycle riding after school course. So the kids were really proficient.
Yeah,
If you think of, I mean, because last year, the kids were so excited. I don't know that they got the instructions. They were just so
Mhm.
excited.
yeah, so
With 2 or
we,
3 days.
so we reached out to the school district, and this is gonna sound like I'm pointing a finger. I don't mean for it to sound like this. We inquired if it were possible to implement some type of bike safety curriculum within their physical
Yeah.
education courses. That didn't happen.
Oh,
And so it was shot down. To the school district's defense, their focus is education. At the end of the day, I have to remind myself, at the very end of the day, the school district's job, their sole purpose is to educate their children in accordance to their, I shouldn't say their
State requirements,
state requirements, yeah. And so a lot of what they are able to do is that much, it's heavily dependent on, that state standard, which is unfortunate in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I understand where they're coming
what
from.
about the Boys and Girls Club? Could they help you? Because some of those kids.
It's not that we need assistance.
I mean, just
You know what I
longer
mean?
bicycling training. Could they?
Yeah, so if you can imagine with the Boys and Girls Club or any other entity, they're not the ones who are receiving the bikes.
Mhm.
So the children within each individual school, that's where the bikes are gonna go. As soon as we go to the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA or even our after school, the city's own after school programs, now all of a sudden we're inviting a third party to host a space where, we're bringing in another third party
Okay.
to come and teach the kids. And keep in mind, when we're trying to teach children how to ride bikes, for any of the parents out there, I've got two of my own. That's one-on-one attention when it comes to teaching somebody how to ride a bike. So it's not one teacher teaching 10 people. Here's where you grab the handlebars, and first you're going to throw your right leg over, and then you say it, and then you expect them to do it. It doesn't work like that. So thus the volunteerism. That said, though, because of the generous funding, we have the ability to host more bike rodeos, which in a lot of ways can serve as an alternative to bicycle safety courses, AKA how to ride a bike courses. Those can be hosted at our farmers markets,
Yes.
which are weekly. But if not at a farmer's market, again, the city has the space to be able to almost host it in a variety of places. Back to West Orange Avenue, Orange Park, West Orange Ave. There's a number of places where these can occur. And it's like I said, we have the funding to be able to do that. And so that is the plan. So really, it's going to be, let's give you the bicycles, and then we're going to provide platforms or opportunities for you to be able to, put the bike to practice.
So we did 4th and 5th grades. Have you snuck over to the middle schools?
We have
There's a
Parkway
bike-
Heights.
She told me she needs more bike racks there, but
Oh, bike racks.
yes, but have you seen how many bikes made it there? I mean, how many kids they were in 5th grade, they went to Parkway Heights. How many bikes are going on?
Oh, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, no, to be honest, actually, no. I haven't heard that type of request from us. It's not necessarily in this program's wheelhouse. So if I'm hearing you correctly, we're talking about bike storage.
No, yeah, well, she needs more bike racks, but have you ever just gone over there to see how many of those white bicycles are?
Oh, no, I haven't actually just.
Then you know how successful it was.
Oh,
right?
well, yeah, I guess the eyeball test would tell you how many of these are still being used. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
You do know the bike racks are secured?
Oh, I don't know, but when,
Parkway is bike storage. I complained it multiple times when my kids are going to Parkway there. They have 2 crappy,
yeah,
racks in the back of the building.
that's the
I
school
know,
that's
my
getting.
son used to bike
Yeah.
both my boys used to bike the Parkway. I thought it was secured.
I mean, sure, it's a rack you can lock your bike to, but it's not very well organized, and it's way out on the side of the campus.
The lady,
Perhaps they could use some funding to help.
they want funding.
I think bike racks in general at a lot of schools are not they're not given the priority that they once used to be. I know that when I was in school, there was like rows of bike racks and all of them were filled, and it was just, not that everybody was riding their bikes, but it was much more common. I know that when I'm driving, when I'm dropping my kids off, when I'm passing El Camino, just whatever the schools that I'm passing, I don't see anybody riding bikes.
No.
It's just not, you just don't see it.
Yeah.
Thus, the need for a program like this that in our opinion, infrastructure plays a role, you know, so depending on where the school is, some schools and neighborhoods are just gonna be safer than others. And that's something that we do consider. And actually at one of the council meetings last month, that was also something that was mentioned specific to Parkway Heights. Just because it is up on a hill, more kids than not from school are going downhill than uphill. And just thinking about Chestnut in general, you know, and that's another thought of, you know, that's usually going through my head after an event like this. We're gonna give Parkway 70 bicycles. And so let's just picture 70, let's just assume all 70 children know how to ride the bike. But that's 70 people who are gonna be riding away from Parkway just that day with a bicycle. And we know not everybody knows how to ride a bike there. So what will that look like? But that said though, with this program, there is the thought behind proper infrastructure within all of these schools and beyond is being considered by council and beyond. You said you volunteered last year, yeah? What were you tasked with?
Helping the kids.
With the
put together
helmets?
helmets. Yeah, right.
And you did what schools?
I only did Sunshine Gardens.
Just Sunshine Gardens, okay. Are there bike racks there?
I think they have enough, or it looked good to me, but Christopher volunteered me to help with the safe routes for school, to school.
Don't tell you what to do.
Very nice of you, but volunteering.
And so I've been talking to the team from engineering and the lady who's spearheading it there.
Mhm.
That was her biggest worry, was there's nowhere to park the bikes, and just like you said, Chestnut is very highly traveled, and how is this gonna work with the kids coming out and.
Yeah. I mean, how many of us in this room rode our bikes to school at one point? Maybe not forever, but I mean, did people do that? And I can't, my eyes are not everywhere. Do we see? I know we don't see as many children riding their bikes, but do we see a few? Are there a few kids that we see on bicycles? At least a couple? I live across the street from a school and I don't see children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not quite sure. I mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole of like, what happened to society, blah, 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 video game. I don't try not to go there, but I mean, this is something that we're still trying to hold on to as far as just, you know, it just speaks to so much. So our environment, studies have shown, you know, how much confidence children build. Just learning how to ride a bicycle, how much more confident they become. Obviously, there's the health benefits, so on and so forth. So this is a program worth holding on to if we're able to. We already know that the state of California is going to be, they're not going to be in the same financial state next year as they are right now or even last year. So there's some question as far as funding a year from now, but for now, we're in a good place.
So do you think about having the kids, once they outgrow the bike, donate it back so it could go to another kid, or?
We're gonna get, these bikes are theirs. These are gonna be their bikes to do what they want. So this isn't, we don't wanna look at it like we're gonna lease you this bicycle or we're gonna, you know, nothing like that. So we, you know, we're giving it to them with a whole heart, with the best intentions.
Yeah.
So if this is something they can pass down to their own choice, to their younger sibling or to a cousin or.
Yes, I have two. I know exactly. What you
Yeah, I
mean.
mean, you know, and these are not, you know, we're not purchasing on a, you know, we're not trying to save a dollar, you know what I mean? So these are decent bicycles also.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a bike expert, but again, that's something else that we rely on with our other stakeholders. And so we want to make sure, you know, according to our quote unquote bike professionals, that we're giving away decent bicycles that will last. And hopefully they can be used beyond this initial generation.
I think when we started this program, or even before we started it, we were trying to get kids into bicycles. It wasn't necessarily commuting to school, though that is the major part of it, but also using it for recreation. And we have the Centennial Trail. We also talked about doing activities like bicycle rodeo, not giving away the bicycles, but having them like contests or competitions or whatever. And the Centennial Park was going to be a nice location for something like that. So that's something we should probably still consider looking into in the future, to get these kids out, get them confident, to get them riding bikes, and then you can work on the safety aspects at the same time. You know, I know when I was a kid at school, but back in Ireland, we had I forget what they called it, but it was like a competition, and you had to go through an obstacle course and what have you. So that was a nice thing. You got little prizes for that.
Yeah.
So something, a reward mechanism or something added into a recreation.
I think that's kind of the strategy or the draw in order to, get children to want to ride their bikes. And that sounds crazy to say, but I think that's the proper strategy, or what we should be thinking, whether it's utilizing Centennial Trail, any open space that the city has access to. Don't quote me, we're come spring and fall. That's when we get heavy into our event season. And by our, I mean just the city as a whole. You'll notice there's gonna be back to back events from the Parks and Recreation Department. And so there's gonna constantly be like, is there an opportunity within this particular event to utilize some of the funding that is intended for this bike program? So yeah, and that's the greatest part too. The funding that will be received by the state, about half of it will cover the cost of the bicycles. So
If only we had someone here from the Parks and Recreation Department.
Oh, well. Please don't quote me either.
Now, that would be a great program for the Parks and Recreation Department to take on.
For
those who don't know, Devin's worked there for about 20 years.
I've been there quite a while. So yeah, the last thing they want to hear from me is like,
Here's another idea.
I have an event for you.
So did you leave the Park and Rec department?
I'm sorry?
You left the Park and Rec department?
Yes, yeah,
Now you're working,
City managers.
city, yeah,
yeah, it was the city manager who came to our meeting and said we had to do it. Every kid deserves a bike, right?
said you had to?
Yes, they came and said you guys.
Was that the
previous city manager?
The previous.
Yeah, the previous city manager, Fatro, came in and
Yes.
said, hey, we're doing your BPAC, you're doing this project, support it.
And we were like, we only meet once
Yeah,
a
I should
month.
rush sharing with me. I had no idea, but I'm politely, well, yeah. Support and feedback is always welcome. And it's not just tonight. I know this is one of two presentations tonight. And so, I know people are feeling a certain way, but just wanted to make it clear, the program is proceeding this year. I think it is relevant to this commission. And so, like I said, feedback, participation, volunteerism, advocacy, all of that would be appreciated for this particular program. Whether it's any of the 6 events already lined up or beyond. So.
I think next step would be have Devin provide us with the dates and then we'll push it out to all of you through email. Make sure you have those dates in hand.
And you will volunteer us?
And I will volunteer all of you.
Well,
You
dates, dates, location, like what is the type of information that the commission would need? So dates, locations.
Location.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's for
Times.
Yeah, I
times.
think like
Yeah,
Natalie and I just
location
went to
and
the
time.
school in our neighborhood, so
Mhm.
I,
And then you can volunteer, please do.
just walked over there and.
What so just in terms of volunteerism, like I've reached out to our CERT team,
Yeah,
they're gonna
there's
be.
mostly CERT volunteers there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so they'll be, whoever's available, they have to wait until we get a little bit closer before they can make any commitments. I've been in communication with our Promotores program, and we have them on board. We have the San Mateo Bike Coalition. And private company called Saturna, which
Yes, they had a bunch of people coming out
Yeah.
from which school, I forgot.
I heard, when you say a bunch of people, I heard 30.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we were a little short at our school.
Yeah,
We were running around. I was like, oh.
I'm asking them to spread it out a little bit. Maybe we don't need 30 at one event. Perhaps we get 5 at 6 events. Like, that would be great.
That would be better, but I think it was a team building event for
That's
them.
what I'm thinking. Who is this for?
So
Okay.
anyone has any connections at a company that can spare?
Well, I appreciate it. I will forward that information over to Chris and then, yeah, he'll relay it. And again, I do want to leave my cards just in case anybody wants to reach out. But yeah, unless. there's-
Other resources for groups, what about the PTA at the different schools?
Yeah. The school that is a good idea, Frank. So yeah, I'll reach out to them. The school district is, yeah. We have more meetings on the horizon. And so, I think the question for them would be just how to get me in touch with their PTA president. You know,
Yeah, so you can go.
and
speak
that's
to
all,
their
and
meeting, yeah.
that's all it would be. Yeah.
And at the high schools, they have to do a service project still, I think.
Do they? I know they used to. It was like their capstone project,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So maybe you can get a few of them.
Yeah, if available, all of these events are always during school time.
Yes.
They tend to start at like noon.
Yes.
But that said though, I mean, schools have changed so much. Some of these seniors, I mean, they're literally out of school at noon, so it's possible.
I don't know any other. If we think of anything, we'll send it to you.
I appreciate it.
Then we can also reach out to other commissions, get them, you know.
The
aware of
traffic
that.
or the,
Yeah, I happen to be liaison to our equity commission. They are well aware of this.
okay, they can volunteer too.
That's what I told them.
Yes.
Okay.
You're always too busy working.
It's a lot of things to do here. So,
You can come.
Are we working?
This is busy as him, aren't you?
Well, we won't be the plan, so.
It's much fun.
other questions or comments for Devin on the
No, good
program?
luck.
Otherwise, thank you.
Everything's full.
As long as you do it in May, I will commit to volunteer.
Very much appreciated.
I will be gone for the month of April to Ireland. So that'll be the next meeting.
Well, he's canceled the next meeting because it's his birthday, so.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
I mean, if there is an item that needs to be taken to
Right.
BPAC, we will have that meeting. And then I'll be grumpy the entire time.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make someone fill in for you.
If I can't get somebody to do it, I'll be here for it. It's the duty, so don't worry.
You know,
How could you not want to spend your birthday with us?
don't answer that.
All right, enough. Thank you for your comment. All right, so,
Okay.
shall we move on to the last item?
Yes.
So, BPAC, we're overdue for reorganization.
Yes.
We wanna, unless we wanna keep Arian at that spot, that's also okay.
Does anyone want to be the leader?
But, so typically we can do rotation, have the vice chair take over. And then get somebody new and then vice chair becomes chair. We elect a new vice chair tonight.
So I nominate Daryl as chairperson.
Is that okay?
Oh, gosh, I have not thought about it.
I can't tell from
I
the
like-
look.
I like calling myself vice chair because I have a title with less responsibility, but I'll accept.
Okay.
I literally have not thought about it.
Okay, I'll second his motion.
Okay. Any opposition, okay, do a roll call for that.
What about vice chair? Oh,
No,
seven.
no.
Roll call and then we'll do
Separate
that.
actions.
Okay.
All right, committee member Guzman.
Yes,
Thanks, Devin.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Good luck.
Vote for yourself, vice chair Kim.
Yes.
Committee member Gore is absent. Committee member Hollenbeck,
Oh, yes.
committee member McCauley,
Yes.
and committee member Hingy.
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Chair. Gibb.
Okay, thank you.
Now I'd like to nominate Dylan as vice chair.
Oh,
We have a second.
Is that okay?
Who's second?
Second.
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
I second it.
Okay,
You have the title of the responsibility as the chair.
All right.
you have to leave the meeting.
Sorry, I'm not to walk out of this, I'm gonna walk it back.
Oh, no, we'll keep it open.
Yeah, yeah.
The public meeting.
It's a public.
But thank you so much.
Seems like it's locked right now. Did they use the other door?
Oh, is
No.
maintenance closed it?
Ain't it disclose it? Uh-oh, it's late. All right, so, okay. Roll call, to elect Vice Chair Hingy, Committee Member Guzman,
Yes,
Chair Yip,
Yes.
Committee Member Gore is absent. Committee Member Hollenbeck,
Yes.
Committee Member McCauley,
Yes.
and vote for yourself, Committee Member Hingy.
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Vice Chair Hingy.
I'm gonna need an orientation.
okay, so,
Your orientation is gonna come from the previous chair.
Yeah, chair.
But-
oh, no, Frank is the best.
Oh,
No,
You've been there for a whole year now?
Yeah.
Well, this is my third year, actually.
So
So
finish
2
the
years.
meeting, or do I finish?
You
the
need
meeting?
to
Terms are 4
Okay.
years. We checked with,
And I was on a 4-year term.
everyone, yeah, no, everyone's a 4-year term.
For some reason, I thought it was a partial.
Sorry about that.
Cool, 4-year term.
first line of responsibility, Chair, yeah,
Oh,
it would be if we have grant applications and we need your signature for the letter of support, they are pretty run-of-the-mill standard
okay.
forms that we need to submit to, like, for example, coming up in April, we have cycle 7 with the TA for projects. We'll need, we always throw that in like last minute, right at the deadline. We need your DocuSign signature on the day of.
Yeah, it's,
You cannot hide from me.
Sure.
Right, that's, if I cannot find you, I will also send it to then Vice Chair Hingy, and I will find both of you. But no, just help us run the meeting, keep us on track, make sure it's focused on the agenda at hand. That's what the Brown Act says, and then that should be it.
yeah, try not to get off course.
Yeah. And especially like when Frank goes on a rant about something, you find a way to steer him back to topic. Yeah. Okay. All right, so, let's move on.
Okay.
Yes,
So I guess, am I the chair?
Oh,
No, no, no.
that's me.
for this meeting, Arian gets to finish.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
just never mind.
Okay, items from BPAC members?
My only item is, the environmental impact report for 101 is expected to come out as early as this month. I don't know if it is. I'm assuming it will be. I'm like moving as if it is. So if you have an opportunity to give public comment on it, on explaining how widening freeways adds more cars to our roads and therefore makes walking and biking less desirable or pleasant or comfortable, please do so.
I was amazed to read in the paper last week that new an express lane on Highway 101 from San Bruno down to Richland City. They had $2 million or something, and well over expectations. I wonder, does the TA get some of that money?
I don't know, but I don't. I don't-
That's all the TAs.
It's a TA,
By the
yeah.
TA. The Joint Powers Authority is part of the TA.
Very interesting.
The comments?
For me, I have been going to the Safe Route to Schools meeting, and this year's will be Parkway Heights, and they'll probably be asking for volunteers to do the walk audit, where you stand outside and watch how people come to the school. So I don't know if you'll see anything about that, but it's a lot of fun, and they're so,
I've done that. I pray all my years here, I purposely tried to stay away from schools at start time and finish time. There were stages. the most dangerous places.
And we're gonna have to go there and stand and count how many people and, yeah. So,
It's an interesting experience, but it's beneficial for the
Are
work
you
that they're
gonna-
doing. Oh, yeah, I have to be there.
and so I've met several of your coworkers and it's been an interesting thing. I would recommend if you want to do it next year.
We always, BPAC is always listed as part of the cohort for a lot of these safe routes to school, school travel fellowship. So we encourage anyone from BPAC to always be part of that team that's mostly led by our engineering division and to look at that specific school, this case, this year's Parkway Heights for quick build, easy treatments that you can do to improve pedestrian safety and ways for kids to get to school a lot safer and navigate our streets.
But they're also doing, they didn't have an overall plan for the city. It seems like, so now they're also trying to do that.
Yeah,
So it's been interesting to hear all of it.
it's expanding.
And where can we find information on the volunteering schedule and stuff? This is online, I guess.
I don't think
We
it's
can-
online
We'll find
yet.
it. We'll reach out to Jeff and Lawrence and then see if there's something we can share.
Yeah.
To feedback. Yeah, okay.
Because there was also an app that you could put on your phone and then you could just send in your comments when you had time, which I thought was more useful for regular people.
Okay, we'll find that info.
Yeah.
Okay.
More work for you. Okay, anything else?
All right.
Okay, how about from you two items from staff?
Devin left. Okay, so this is a uncomfortable one. Go ahead. If you are comfortable sharing with me, BPAC members, your pronouns that you prefer.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm asked to collect that just because of like some inclusivity.
What are our options?
You tell me what your pronouns are and we'll make a note of it. She, her, he,
Yeah.
him.
She, her.
All right. They, them, that's everything is fine.
Yes. But usually you just check the box. So she, her works for me.
He, him.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Undecided.
Undecided.
I thought they would say like king
What
and
do you want to be identified as?
It's okay if you are undecided. That's the whole point of inclusivity. It's okay if you're not decided. Okay, thank you for that. Second item from staff is, I got the email saying that the city manager approved it. We are on for city council on March 13th, next Wednesday, to give a debrief on the El Camino Real Complete Streets Demonstration Project.
you both.
That's my item. I have to be there and I have to present.
March
If any
13th.
BPAC members would like to make a public comment and tell me your experience on what you saw and how good it is and how monumental it is to slap a protected bike lane in El Camino. Because I'm gonna take council through the story of how difficult it was.
Okay.
Right, so,
What time is that?
starts at 6 p.m. Agendas will be finalized this Friday, so just be on the lookout.
The council meeting starts at 6.
Daryl's in charge.
So it starts at
Daryl'll be in
6.
charge after today.
I'm gonna be there for something else.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good.
Please,
Yes.
yeah.
I can't make it.
Yeah, so
Is-
please help me make a comment and I can give you talking points. The talking point is Chris is awesome, like 10 times more.
That's what I said last time.
So, but yeah, no, we're gonna do the debrief and the resolution we're anticipating is to accept like further the funding that we have not remaining, but that we won from that grant program from Cycle 6 to study the El Camino Real corridor for protected bike lanes and actually get to some preliminary designs and, options. Like, for example, I'm gonna try to be on the record and say, I want a 2-lane El Camino with bike lanes and some loading spaces for businesses, which then balances the needs of everyone on that roadway. And then we'll see if I get fired the next day. Yeah. But yeah, no, March 13th, that's where we'll be on the agenda for that. Okay, and yeah, that's all I had for staff.
Is it online?
Yes, it'll be online. I think there's a,
Advised on San
yeah.
27 or something like that.
Yeah. I can push the agenda out when it's finalized, through email.
I'm happy Frank will be there.
It's still all in person. They don't take virtual.
Yeah.
element, But you can watch it as
You
well.
can watch it, but there, yeah, I think, because there was a stretch of like or like hate speech that people flooded the Zoom lines with. That's why council
Oh.
pulled away from
That's
that.
too bad because it was so easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's not, it's like us, like why we have to be here as well. And members of the public, like when Anthony shows up.
But you can provide public comment beforehand, so you can do e-comments, you could call, you can email,
There's that too.
you can write a letter that gets there in time. Like, there's ways to do it beforehand digitally.
Yeah, so that's also an option if you're not able to participate on the day of.
Okay.
All right,
Are we ready for, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Everyone, it's been wonderful. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for training me, Frank.
Oh, good job.
Okay,
you,
good. And, yeah, sit next to Frank.
All right, thanks, everybody. So we're out, we'll likely be out in April, but we'll pick things back up in May.
Okay.
Thanks.